Dave is listening in Concord, New Hampshire, and he wants to talk about going to college. Hey, Dave, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, how you guys doing? You know, there's one thing that people tend to miss when they talk about going to college, people from the outside. You know, it's not all sitting in classes. There's a lot of labs to be had. And those labs often have equipment or chemicals or, whatever, things like that, that you as an individual would not be able to find outside of the college to get the experience with them that you need.
Sure, if you're going into a field where you're going to be working with electrical equipment or lab chemicals or whatever.
Exactly. But then there are other areas, for instance, in psychology or sociology, where you learn how to
do what? I'm sorry, there was some kind of
audio glitch.
Audio thing.
It was an art therapy, and she had experience with certain patients as part of her master's program. You could not do that if you just walked someplace that was doing psychology, said, "Hey, I'd like to try this," and they'd laugh.
Sure, yeah.
Dave, we're having a lot of audio problems here. Let's address the difference between a bachelor and master's here.
Yeah, Dave,
I think that's
thanks
really
for
important.
your call. I'm going to let you go because of these audio problems, but I do appreciate bringing that up.
I'm only talking about a bachelor's degree here, and sometimes you need a bachelor's degree in order to go get the master's degree. I'm not going to argue that point by any stretch of the imagination. And like I say, I think scientists probably do need to go to college, but there are a lot of degrees it's not what's necessary to go to school. I met a lot of people with marketing degrees in the radio ad sales field that, I, as a guy who was relatively fresh out of prison and working at a gym lifting weights, was able to do with the same or more alacrity. So it's not like that marketing degree did them any good. There's a lot of crappy paper being sold as degrees in this country, and I think that's what we're discussing. I don't think that colleges should all be burned to the ground and that we should step into a new dark age in order to reach the Enlightenment. That's not what my claim is here.
Sure. But, I would debate a little bit, though, the idea that some things can only be done at college. I think some of the biggest advancements that are happening are coming from the fact that a lot of this lab equipment that was mentioned is getting open sourced and is getting put into maker spaces where people can get into there with a very small fee and not have any kind of formal education, and yet they're changing the world.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah. In fact, I know people that are like running their own businesses and they don't have any PhDs or anything of that nature, and they're doing some of the highest science that we can get in the land.
Yeah, in fact, I know a biomedical science. He actually sequenced the cannabis, indica, and sativa genomes,
right.
And he doesn't have a PhD. He's as good a scientist as you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, to some
degree,
degree,
not have a PhD.
Sure, and to some degree, science needs to almost go underground because government regulation, and it's true. I mean, to do a lot of things, yes, because of the government education complex that exists out there. Okay,
I like that.
Yeah, you have.
I think it's hard. It's a hard term to argue with.
Right. You do have to where this is the only legal place to practice this kind of stuff. And yes, there's inherent dangers of not following rules and not getting perhaps a certain education that of safety and whichever else. I get that, but at the same time, the real advancements that maybe need to be made cannot be made because of regulation. And so I think, maybe you still have to go to college to get that education, but I think that's by and large changing, and no longer is it true that that's necessary.
It's really...
Colleges need to compete or die, and the problem is they're getting a lot of government subsidy.
Yeah, there's no competition.
Yeah, they are. It's really interesting for me personally because I have these sort of two different perspectives. I always said when I was a young teenager and people started to ask me, well, what do you want to do for a living? I always sort of said, oh, well, I'd like to be on the radio. I'd like to be, even an actor. I'd like to work with my voice or something like that. So I had this idea of that I wanted to do basically what I'm doing now. But adults responded to that with, well, no, you shouldn't do that. You'll never make money at it. You should go into science. You're good at science. You should do that. You'll be successful that way. And I took that advice to heart.
But you're also
really
really driven, and I think to some extent, like, you went in and slayed the heart of the dragon for yourself to prove that it could be done. Like, you went into the man's world and said, look at me, I'm among the youngest, smartest, most capable people that you've got here, and I'm a woman, and I've got huge respect for that. But, at the same time, it's clearly not the thing that makes you happiest.
But sure, that's a great point. But then the question becomes, I don't believe that. I mean, yes, some people have a stronger drive than others, but I think everybody has a drive of some kind. And what's killing
what they
that?
Love.
Yeah, and what's killing that drive? None other than public school, in my opinion.
Well, this brings it back to the point that I wanted to make originally, which was that I basically have these two very different experiences. One was going to undergraduate and graduate school for biochemistry, getting my PhD in biochemistry. That was the academic path, right, where I did all the labs. And I mean, I volunteered in laboratories and learned a lot about research that way and getting my hands wet and actually doing the scientific experiments. I learned a lot that way, but a lot of it was very structured and academic and like the formal, like, we're going to teach you this hands-on experience as part of your coursework. And then I have this other experience that I was actually kind of doing at the same time of teaching myself how to use Audacity for podcasting, teaching myself how to put together a podcast, listening to other people's podcasts and radio shows, being on Free Talk Live. It's almost like an internship. I mean, like, I learned how to run Free Talk Live from Ian, and it was, it's totally like an internship. And I taught myself voiceover. I taught myself how to set up a studio in my house. Nobody gave me a course on that. I learned it myself, and I figured it out from the internet. And so both of those are things that kind of gave me hands-on experience doing things that I would need to do, quote, in real life. But I learned them very different ways. One was extremely structured. The other was very unstructured and almost like unschooling. So, Free Talk Live, in a way, and teaching myself voiceover has been like my unschooling internship in the world of radio and
you can do whatever. At this point, the internet is it's the Library of Alexandria brought to your living room or bedroom or basement, wherever you happen to be. You can learn whatever you want there.
Yeah, indeed. And they're both valid ways of learning. That's the whole point of what I wanted to say, I guess, is that, like, both of those are valid ways of learning things, and they both teach you stuff. It's just, how do you want to go about it?
But one's significantly more expensive, right? Like, so I've thought about going back to school and getting a degree. The reason is simply to be able to say, you know what I have? I have a master's in history from Dartmouth. Because I can study whatever history I want to study by simply buying books from Amazon or whatever. And I know that people can use the ebooks. I'm just not that interested in them. But I would prefer to have a paper book. I can buy these books and read this stuff on my own and know as much, if not more, than any history person. Because, by the way, when it comes to history, you study the books you study, you know the books that you know, and then other people disagree with you on the same issues. Even if they were talking about the same time period, this happened. No, it didn't. That happened.
Well, history is kind of he said, she said.
It is a lot of that.
In a sense.
Yeah.
But, so what was the line of thinking on that, Mark? Have you decided if you're going to go back to school and do that? Or
I keep on entertaining the ideas.
Do you think you're just going to keep reading and just say,
I'm certainly going to do that.
You can say you have an honorary PhD from the School of Stephanie.
Thank you. Right, you just make up your own degree.
855-450-3733. Should Mark go back to college so he can party and drink? 855-450 free.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.